And now the celestial guide brings Ezekiel to the temple, chapter 41, verse 1. And he measured the posts of the temple. Verse 2, he looks at the door and the doorposts. Verse 31, on which the blood of the Paschal Lamb had been sprinkled in the long ago. And he sees, the end of verse 4, the most holy place. So he moves through the door, through the temple, to the most holy place. In verse 5, he sees a wall. In verse 7, there is a winding way, upward, ever upward, from the lowest chamber to the highest chamber. I saw also the height of the foundations, supporting, verse 10, chambers, each of which have, verse 11, doors. Now the building, in verse 12, was before the separate place, toward the west. The most holy place was toward the west. It was separate. It was kept sacrosanct from everything else. Now let us weigh up what he is seeing. He is seeing a temple, and the temple has doors. He had seen a court, and the court had many gates. He had come through the courts, through the central court in which was the altar. He had seen the sacrifice. He had heard the choirs sing. He had watched the priests mediate. He had observed the effectiveness of the blood. Now he was to think of the temple. The temple. Now in the Scriptures, the word temple is applied first to the sanctuary or Solomonic, Zerubbabel, Herodian temple here on earth, a building. Secondly, it is applied to the temple in heaven, the reality of which the earthly sanctuary and temple were but types. And thirdly, Paul tells us that we are the temple of the Holy Ghost, who dwells in us. So as we think about this temple, we are to realize that while it focuses mainly on Jesus Christ, the pattern of the true temple, illustrated by the temple on earth, it also has a slightly parabolic application to our own souls, to our own minds, to our own lives. Our bodies are the temple. There are doors, and Jesus Christ is standing at the door knocking. We have the handle on the inside. We can open the door, or we can allow it to be kept tight. There is a place inside our personalities, inside our wills, sacred, into which God will not obtrude. He will not interfere with our choice. So we can see dimly the separation between where we keep our own sacred idols and where we allow God to come in. So there is a separation. But let us leave this and turn to Ezekiel following his divine guide through the temple. Jesus is the door, the blood-marked door leading to the most holy place. The temple is surrounded by walls. According to the parable of the vine in Isaiah chapter 5 and the comment that we get in Prophets and Kings, the wall is the law of God. He sees that there is a wall, protecting, keeping out, keeping in. He sees that there are foundations. We read of these foundations in Revelation chapter 21. We see the foundations throughout the Bible. Some foundations are on sand. The true foundation is the rock. Jesus Christ is the foundation upon which the temple, built upon prophets and apostles, is reared to the glory of God. And when it is complete, Jesus Christ is also the chief cornerstone. He is the root. He is the offspring. He is the ancestor. He is the son, the seed. So we see foundations, walls, foundations, doors leading into the most holy place. So he measured the house, verse 13, and he measured the building. Verse 14, he measured the separate place toward the east, the court, the center of which was the altar. And he measured, verse 15, the inner temple and the porches of the court. He measured the windows and the galleries and the stories and the ceiling. Above the door, verse 17, even to the inner house, by the wall, round about, all these he measured. And he noticed that were there cherubim and palm trees, just as there had been in Solomon's temple. Cherubim, symbols of glorified humanity, palm trees, emblems of victory. He notices, too, that the cherubs have a face of a man, the face of a lion. These are the two faces only he notices here. He had seen 4 in chapters 1 and 10. He saw 4 wings then. Other places he sees 2 wings. Isaiah in chapter 6 saw 6 wings. So it depends on the view. Here we see a man and a lion. One to indicate sympathy and communication, the other regal dignity. The toil of the ox has won its crown. The vision of the eagle has reached its goal. He notices in verse 21 posts to the sanctuary, one looking like the other. And then, verse 22, an altar of wood. This is the golden altar. In chapter 40, verse 47, he had already measured the brazen altar. On this altar, incense, intercession, prayer. This is the table that is before the Lord. He sees an altar and a table. And the sanctuary had 2 doors, turning leaves, with cherubim and palm trees, narrow windows, palm trees, and a porch made of thick planks. As he moves through this mysterious building, everything is solid. The walls are enormously thick. The foundations are immeasurably deep. The pillars and posts are solid. The double gates are for protection. All who enter into this temple are safe. And there he sees the altar of sacrifice, the altar of intercession. He sees the court. He sees the most holy place. He sees the table before the Lord. He sees the doors open. Then he brought me forth into the outer court, chapter 42, and there again, chambers, and still more chambers. Some small, some large, some lower, verse 5, some upper. Some were longer, some were shorter. There were galleries. Some galleries were higher than these, verse 5. Then there were lower, and there were some in the middle of the building. For there were in 3 stories. There were pillars supporting them. And the building was solid. And the wall that was without, verse 7, toward the outer court, it had its special purposes and its special length in connection with the chambers. In verse 8, there are still more chambers. And in verse 9, and in verse 10. Verse 11, and the way before them was like the appearance of the chambers that were toward the north, as long as they, and as broad as they. All their goings out were both according to their fashions and according to their doors. So to the north, to the south, to the east, there are corridors and passages and stories and ways and doors and stairways and chambers and still more chambers. And every time I read these verses, I think again of Christ's statement in the upper room, in my Father's house are many chambers. Many chambers. Verse 13, then he said to me, the north chambers and the south chambers, and before the separate place, they be holy chambers, where the priests that approach unto the Lord shall eat the most holy things. They shall lay the most holy things, and the meal offerings, and the sin offerings, and the trespass offerings, for it is holy. And the priests enter therein into the chambers. They shall go not out, but they shall lay their garments within. They are holy. They shall put on other garments, and shall approach to those things that are for the people. Now here is the crux of the matter. These chambers are chambers for priests. We meet priests from the dawn of sin. The word priest, Kohen, is the one who approached God on behalf of others. Every father of every family should have been a priest. That was his birthright. That was his destiny. When the family units failed, God called Aaron and the Levites to fulfill the priesthood. So he established the Aaronic priesthood, to take the priesthood of all anonymous believers, which was the priesthood of Melchizedek. When Jesus Christ came, he restored the priesthood of Melchizedek, the priesthood of the anonymous, the man about whose father and mother there is no knowledge, the man who cannot pass on his ministry to his posterity, the anonymous. And we have a description of this anonymous priesthood in 1 Peter chapter 2:9. The same words that had been said of Israel long ago. Ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a selected, one-of-a-kind, peculiar people, whose destiny is to show forth the praise of him who loved you and died for you. The priesthood of 1 Peter 2:9 is the priesthood of which we are members. We become members when we are born-again Christians, becoming brothers of Jesus Christ after the order of Melchizedek. Our priesthood does not depend on a pedigree. We have no father or mother who guarantees our priesthood, as was the case with the Aaronic priesthood. We cannot pass on our comprehensions and understandings and experiences to our children. We have no posterity. God has no grandchildren, only sons and daughters who are individually born into his kingdom. So these many chambers in the Father's house are the abodes of the priests, men and women, boys and girls, who, because they are Christ's, because they have accepted the Lord Jesus Christ, because they are washed by the cleansing blood, because they acknowledge that the doorposts are stained by the Paschal Lamb, can enter in a royal priesthood. 2 Peter 1:4, because they have accepted the exceeding great and precious promises, and by these have become partakers of the divine nature. As priests, they have a right to these chambers. So in the dimness of that upper room, as Jesus Christ addressed the 11, and through them all faithful believers, his promise comes to us. In my Father's house, in the temple in heaven, are many chambers. Some low, some high, some in the middle. Some small, some large. Some with big, spacious windows, some with narrow windows. Some near the wall, some near the inner court. There are many, many chambers prepared for you. With a shelf, Ellen White tells us, on which we can take off the crown of life, the crown of glory, the crown of righteousness, and the harp of emancipated praise, and lay them while we rest and bask in the glory of the place. And what do the priests do? They lay the most holy things. And what are the most holy things that they can contemplate in those many chambers in the Father's house? The sacrifice, the meal offering, by which Jesus Christ said, all that I have is thine. The sin offering, by which he says, my life is laid down for you. The trespass offering, that takes care of all the sins that we commit day by day. And the peace offering, by which he unites in one all who come to him. And the priests who are there in those inner chambers are there forever. They don't go out. They can come in and out, but they don't move away. This is their abode. This is their rest. And they have with them their garments, their holy garments, made of fine linen, clean and white, washed in the blood of the Lamb, in whose devising there is not one thread of humanity, woven in the loom of heaven. And in these holy garments they can approach to the things which are for the people. And when he had made an end, verse 15 of Ezekiel 42, of the inner house, he brought me toward the gate, the prospect of which is toward the east. Now in the sanctuary and in the temple, the main entry was from the east. In the sanctuary, that was the only entry. You entered the court by the east, you entered the holy place by the east, you entered the most holy place by the east. In the temple of Solomon, you might come by other gates, but you could only enter the holy and the most holy places from the east. The east was the place of entry. And he measured it all the way round about. North, south, 17, 18. Then he turned to the west, and he measured there. And he discovered that there was a wall all the way round about. And the purpose of the wall, at the end of verse 20, was to make a separation between the sanctuary and the profane place. So the emphasis of this measuring, as far as Ezekiel was concerned, was to discern that there was a separation between the holy and the profane, between the heavenly and the earthly. And God's people were to move from earth to heaven. He had a divine design, holiness, movement toward the most holy place, through the court and the holy place, was the scheme of God. So he comes again, chapter 43, verse 1, to this east gate. And as he is contemplating, he sees, verse 2, the glory of the Lord of Israel come from the way of the east, as the sun rising, as the Anatole, as the dawning of a new day. The voice was like the noise of many waters. The earth shined with his glory. You will notice that in chapters 40, 41, and 42, the building has been measured, partly. And as the measuring continued, he got a vision of a returning glory. The glory of God had slowly departed as we have followed it through Ezekiel. We see it go up from the most holy place above the building. Then we see it go to the gate of the temple. Then we watched it move to the mountain to the east of Olivet. And then we see it go away, disappear from Olivet. Now he sees it coming back. He sees the glory returning from the east as the sun rising. And the voice of the glory of God in Jesus Christ, is the voice of many waters. And the waters which thou sawest are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages. And so he hears the voice of humanity in the voice of Jesus. And the earth shined with his glory. Revelation 18, 1-3. When the other angel joins with the first three angels in proclaiming the message, the earth is shining with the glory. And this was the same, as he says, I saw that earlier, verse 3, when it came to destroy the city. Now, verse 4, the glory of the Lord came in the house to save the city. What a wonderful, wonderful vision. It's the same Jesus that condemns who saves. It is the same Jesus who rebukes, who threatens, who scourges every son, who has died, who is appealing, who has saved everyone who will come. And I saw the vision even according to the vision that I saw when I came to destroy the city. The vision was like the vision that I saw by the river Kiba. And I fell on my face. And the glory of the Lord came into the house by way of the east gate. So the Spirit took me up into the inner court, and the glory of the Lord filled the house. And I heard him speaking unto me out of the house, and the man stood by me, and said to me, Son of man, the place of my throne. See, this man is saying, it's my throne. And the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever. My holy name. shall the house of Israel no more defile, nor their kings, by their whoredoms, nor by the carcasses of their kings in high places. In their setting of the threshold of my households, and their posts by my posts, and the wall between me and them, they have even defiled my holy name. Notice what they did. They put their threshold by my threshold. They put their post by my post. They put their wall between me and them. See, Israel had made substitutes. But Jesus Christ is saying now, if you will only measure the pattern, if you'll only measure the true temple, if you'll accept my doors, my posts, if you'll accept my chambers, my house, put no wall between me, put away, verse 9, your whoredom. I will dwell in the midst of them forever. And so the Lord gives Ezekiel a vision that if you'll only keep on studying the sanctuary, in other words, if you'll only think about the sacrifice of Jesus Christ illustrated therein, if you'll only discern the divine purposes in time illustrated by the festivals that span the years and the sabbatical years and the decades and the jubilee, you will see the outworking of the time program. If you'll only study the priesthood, you will see the ministry of Jesus Christ. If you'll only study the sacrificial system, you'll see the implications of Calvary. If you'll only weigh upon the foundations of the building, you will see Jesus Christ as the bread and the wine and the light and the intercessor and the intercession. You'll see him as the mercy seat. You'll see him as the law. You'll see him as the manna. You'll see him as the resurrected rod. You'll see him as the Lamb in the midst of the throne. Break down the wall of separation. Break down the posts that you have made to erect your false temple. Break down those doors that you have erected by the side of my doors, and come in by me. If any man will enter by me, he will go in and out and find pasture. And as they did this, the glory of the Lord came into the house, came into the inner place of the house, filled the house. Jesus is saying, this house is the place of my throne, the place of the soles of my feet. I want to dwell in the midst. So he dwells in the sanctuary, he dwells in the temple, he dwells in the midst of the temple in heaven, and he dwells in our hearts. Sets up his throne in the center of our beings. Now the prophet has given those memorable verses, 10, 11, chapter 43. Son of man, exhibit this house, demonstrate it. Let them see the sanctuary. Let them study the sanctuary. Show it to them in all its details. From the buds and the blossoms and the flowers of springtime, summer, and mature fruit-bearing. Let them see the cups and the goblets with the wine and the water. Let them see the bread on the table, pierced bread. Let them look at every detail. Let them weigh the bells of witness and the pomegranates of fruit-bearing that grow from the hem of the garment of blue of perfect obedience, that rests upon the robe of fine linen, the righteousness of Christ. Let them see the procedure of witness and fruit-bearing that is first laid on the foundation of Christ's righteousness. Let them measure, that they may be ashamed of their iniquities. Let them focus on the pattern. And if they are ashamed of their iniquities, I'll show them even more. Show them the form of the house. Show them the goings out and the comings in. Show them all these things, and the ordinances, and the forms of all the buildings, and the laws. Write it in their sight, that they may keep the whole form thereof, and all the ordinances thereof to do them. This is the law of the house. On the top of the mountain, the whole limit thereof round about shall be most holy. This is the law of the house, holiness. And so the prophet is given the purpose that God had in this measuring the sanctuary. If those in 1844 had only realized the implications of Ezekiel 40 through 43:12, what an easier time they would have. But it was hid from them. If we today would only realize the wonderful ministry of Ezekiel to us, it would save us so much worry, so much anxiety. All we can see is what Ezekiel could see by the river Kibar. The disintegration of Israel as a people. The captivity of his people. the purposes of God to make Israel the head and not the tail, long delayed, seemingly impossible. The heathen destroying the temple. He saw it all, the hopelessness of the case. The Lord said, look up, look above the earth. See high and lifted up the sapphire pavement. See the throne of glory. See the rainbow of promise. See the wheels and interplay of human events, wheels within wheels, full of eyes. Watch the Spirit guide. See the nail-pierced hand directing the affairs of the nations. Watch God's people slowly being transformed into that character that Lucifer had that he forfeited, represented by the cherubim. See it all. This is the glory of God. Upon this he risks his reputation. And then Ezekiel is bidden, measure the temple. All architects have measured. All designers have measured. I suppose the Parthenon in Athens is the most measured building in the world. What gives those stark pillars their appearance of being plumb and square and straight and level? When measured with the sophisticated instruments of today, they are seen to be far from plumb, far from level, far from square. But those ancient artisans, artists in stone, gave the little tilt, gave the upward thrust, so that the eye that beheld would be satisfied. Those who design furniture measure the proportion of furniture in ancient times. How high did the ancient craftsman make the seat of a chair, the width of a chair, the tilt of a chair? Measure, measure, measure. So John, so the people of the Advent movement, so was Israel of old, bidden to measure, measure. And as they began this second measure, it was to be of the altar. Chapter 43, verse 13. The altar is Calvary. The form of the bottom, the form of the breadth. Verse 15, so the altar was measured. Its length and its breadth. Verse 17, its settle, its border, its bottom, the stairs or ramp leading up to it. All the details of Calvary should be measured. There are ordinances to offer, to sprinkle the various offerings. There are ways, verse 20, to cleanse and purge it. It has an appointed place. There are some times when the altar needs to have the ashes removed. The priests should do that. They should cast salt, verse 24. Salt, divine grace that preserves, that purges. Verse 6, so they shall purge the altar, purify it, consecrate it for their peace offerings. And as we measure the altar of Calvary, as we measure him who died thereon, we discover there flows into our hearts through this peace offering an abiding, unshakable peace. So complex was this temple in heaven that the prophet is brought back to the east gate in chapter 44, verse 1. And the east gate was shut. What is the meaning of this? As we have already noted, the east gate for the sanctuary was the only way in. Now he noticed that the gate is shut. And as I read the sign language of Scripture, the chilling thought that the way in has ended. Probation has closed. No longer can anyone enter. And he is told, thus saith the Lord, this gate shall be shut. No man shall enter by it, because the Lord God of Israel hath entered by it. Therefore it shall be shut. It is for the prince. He shall sit in it to eat bread before the Lord. He shall enter by the way of the porch of that gate, and shall go out by the way of the same. The gate was the place where the court was held, where the judges sat, where business was done, where the counsels were carried out. and where, I think, according to Job 1:6, the representatives of the worlds met with God. It's the place of the prince. It's the way in. And the prince has entered by the east gate. No man can enter in when that gate is shut. When probation closes, there is no longer access within the holy places. Then he brought me, verse 4, by the way of the north gate. And behold, the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. The north is the place of the enemy. As I have mentioned, the prospect of the sanctuary was to the east. As the Hebrew looked, he looked eastward. To the right-hand side would be the south. That would be the place of honor. He said to them on his right hand, "Come," he blessed them, "my Father." The left hand was north. That was the place to which the goats are sent. "Depart from me." Thither the enemy came from the north. Right in the teeth of the enemy's approach, verse 4, the north gate, behold, the glory of God was there filling the place. No longer do we have anything to fear. As David sang, "Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies." And he saw this because he looked at the holy place and noticed to the north side the table of showbread with the goblets of wine. And as Ezekiel realizes this, every time he sees the glory of God, he falls on his face. Would to God that we reacted to John 1:14 that way. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld the glory, full of grace and truth, the glory of the only begotten of the Father. Do we fall on our face in adoration, prostrate in fear of offending the one who loved us with an everlasting love? And the Lord said to me, "Son of man, mark well, behold with thine eyes, hear with thine ears what I say to thee concerning the ordinances of the house, all its laws, and the entry of the house, and the going forth of the sanctuary, and go and speak to the house of Israel." Now do we mark all the ordinances of the house? Do we mark all its laws? Do we study, as David did, "Thy commandments are my delight. I know more than my contemporaries, because thy law is my meditation"? Do we know all the regulations? Do we know how to enter into the house? Can we tell our grandchildren how they might accept the Lord Jesus Christ, what they should do to enter into the house, and to go in and out of the sanctuary? "Thus saith the Lord, O house of Israel, let it suffice you of all your abominations." Look at this and quit doing what you're doing. "Ye have brought into my sanctuaries strangers, uncircumcised in heart, uncircumcised in flesh." What does this mean? I think sometimes we bring into the church of God strangers and uncircumcised, those who are not born-again Christians. We just accept them because they are socially tied to us. They defile the sanctuary. They pollute it. They break my covenant. "And ye have not kept the charge of my holy things, but ye have set keepers of my charge in my sanctuary for yourselves." Paul has something similar when he's writing to his sons in the ministry. He says the days will come when they won't endure sound doctrine. They will not listen to preachers who preach the word, but preachers who merely tickle their ears. See, they have not kept my charge, but they have set keepers of my charge in my sanctuary for themselves. And then the Lord says, "No stranger uncircumcised in heart, no uncircumcised in flesh, shall enter my sanctuary." Do we want to enter there? Paul in Colossians 2 talks about the circumcision made without hands, taking away the body of this flesh spiritually, baptized by Jesus Christ, buried, dead, born again. This is the circumcision of which he's speaking here. And the Levites that have gone away from me, when Israel went astray, bring them back. Bring them back. Yet they shall be ministers in my sanctuary, having charge of the gates of the house. Because they ministered unto them before their idols, bring them back. Bring them back. Therefore have I lifted up my hand against them. They shall not come near me to the office of the priest, to any holy thing. They shall bear their shame. But I will make them keepers of the charge of the house for all the service thereof. What is he saying here? As I understand it, he's saying that there are some priests who went astray. They've come back. They've repented. God is ready to accept them in some less important role. They can be keepers of the door. They can tell those who have also wandered, I know the road back. I have sinned. I have apostatized. I have come back. You do the same. I'll make them keeper of the charge of the house. For all that shall be done. But the priests, the Levites, the sons of Zadok, that have kept the charge of the sanctuary when the children went away, they have not apostatized. They have not moved away. They shall come near to me to minister, to offer. They shall come near my table to minister unto me. Verse 16. And it shall come to pass, when they enter in at the gates of the inner court, they shall be clothed with linen garments, with all their bonnets and their hosen and their breeches to cover their loins, gird themselves. They should not gird anything that causes sweat. There will be no defilement, no overdoing. And when they go forth into the outer court to the people, they shall put on their garments, that they might sanctify the people. Verse 20, God gives every detail. They were not to shave their heads. They can only poll or cut their hair. They shall not drink wine. Their marriage relationships, verse 22, should be impeccable. They shall teach, verse 23, my people, the difference between the holy and the profane. I'm surprised the number of times in the Bible this statement is given. We today, in all our education, in our schools, in our ministry, should separate between the holy and the profane. Too many times we do not clean our spiritual glasses and everything begins to look gray. They shall teach my people the difference between the holy and the profane, between the unclean and the clean. In every controversy they shall stand in judgment according to my judgment. So when there are controversial issues, it must come back to God's judgment. They shall not come at any dead. Verse 26, after he is cleansed, reckon 7 days, then he shall go into the sanctuary. They shall have no inheritance, verse 28, I shall be their inheritance. I will give them no possession in Israel. I am their possession. So these priests receive their full satisfaction in their relationship to Jesus Christ. And the end of verse 30, that he may cause the blessing to rest in my house. The blessing of God will rest with such a priesthood. This is the idealism set before this royal priesthood. God has a purpose. Those who may have gone away in sin and trespass can yet make the kingdom of heaven, but they have positions of lesser honor. Those who, like Enoch and Elijah, like Moses and Daniel, have triumphed, they will have places of great honor. David realized this. He said, I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God. And I think I'd settle it if I too could be a doorkeeper. Moreover, chapter 45, when he shall divide the land for inheritance, there shall be for the Lord a holy oblation. And when the new heavens and the new earth are made, and the earth is divided between the 12 tribes of the children of Israel, according to his Revelation chapter 21 and Ezekiel 47 and 48, then there is a place outside the city that shall be for the sanctuary, that shall be for the temple. The end of verse 3, it shall be for the sanctuary, for the most holy place. And there will be a place for the priests, a place for their houses, a holy place for the sanctuary. In verse 6, he shall appoint the possession of the city, That's one place, outside. The city shall be for the whole house of Israel. There was to be still another portion, verse 7, for the prince, Jesus Christ, a place of honor. And in the land, verse 8, shall be his possession in Israel. Thus saith the Lord God, let it suffice you, O princes of Israel. Remove violence and spoil, execute judgment and justice, take away your exactions from my people. Have just balances, just ephah, just shekel, just weights for oil, verse 14. Everything should be carried out with justice. Then bring the lamb, verse 15, and the meal offering and the burnt offering and the peace offering. All the people of the land shall give the oblation for the prince, who is Jesus Christ. And it shall be the prince's part to give burnt offerings, meal offerings, for the people. And the purpose of all this, at the end of verse 18, is to cleanse the sanctuary. This cleansing of the sanctuary, Daniel 8:14, Leviticus 16, is the goal and climax of the full ministry. And the priest shall take the blood and sprinkle it upon the posts of the house and the settle of the altar, the posts of the gate, and shall reconcile or cleanse, verse 20, the house. And the Passover will be remembered in verse 21. And in verse 25, the Feast of Tabernacles shall be celebrated. And in verse 1 of chapter 46, the gate of the court that looketh toward the east shall be shut 6 working days, but on the Sabbath it shall be opened, and in the new moons it shall be opened. Here again I have an echo of the last chapter of Isaiah. And it will come to pass that from one Sabbath to another, and from one new moon to another, all flesh shall come to worship. And the prince shall enter by the way of his court. Likewise, verse 3, the people of the land shall worship at the door. And the burnt offering of the prince shall offer unto the Lord in the Sabbath. Now we may think to ourselves, why in this restoration is the offering of a burnt offering brought to our notice? In Revelation chapter 5, we see in the midst of the throne a lamb as it had been slain. I don't think that the worshippers in all the eternal ages will ever forget the sacrifice of Calvary. They will see the blood of that offering as the most precious thing in the universe for all ages. Every time they come to worship, every time they come to celebrate a feast, every Sabbath that they enter the holy courts, they will see that the prince has offered himself a lamb for the burnt offering. Every new moon, verse 6, they shall do the same. Verse 8, when the prince shall enter, he shall go by the way of the port of that gate. When the people of the land shall come before the Lord, he that entereth in by the way of the north to worship shall go out by the way of the south. No confusion. Perfect organization. And the prince in the midst of them, when they shall go in, shall go in. And when they shall go forth, shall go forth. Jesus Christ is there with them, the center, the object, the glory, the organizer of their worship. Verse 13, thou shalt daily prepare an offering unto the Lord of a lamb. Every day, even in the hereafter, Jesus Christ will be the center of worship. Every morning. Worthy is the Lamb, because he was slain. Thus saith the Lord God, if the prince give a gift unto any of his sons, the inheritance shall be his sons. It shall be their possession. And if he give a gift of his inheritance to one of his servants, then it shall be his to the year of liberty. I don't know what this means in the hereafter, but it means to me that somehow the Lord gives gifts to all those who enter the kingdom. Moreover, the prince shall not take of the people an inheritance, no oppression to thrust them out, but he shall give his sons inheritance out of his own possession, My people be not scattered, every man for his possession. And he brought me through the entry, the side gate that looketh toward the north. And there was a place 2 sides westward. He said, This is the place where the priest shall boil the trespass offering, to sanctify the people. And he brought me forth to the outer court, and I passed through the 4 corners. And every corner was a court. The 4 corners of the court joined 40 cubits long by 1 measure, a row of buildings round about them. And he said, These are the places of them that boil, where the ministers of the house shall boil the sacrifice of the people. Now, boiling the sacrifice was the final preparation for the peace offering, for the feast that came. And so as the temple is measured, the picture is left us at the end of chapter 46 of feasts being prepared. There are many chambers. There are many corridors. There are many courts. There are many stories. There are many ways in. There are many windows, all surrounding the court, the holy place, the most holy place. In the court is the altar, and there the prince provides the offerings, himself the pattern of the sacrifices. He is the sin offering, he is the burnt offering, he is the meal offering, he is the trespass offering. His flesh is for the feast of the peace offering. The priests minister there, some who have never faltered in times of trouble in places of great honor, some who have sinned and apostatized who have come back places of lesser honor, some in high chambers, some in lower chambers, some in large chambers, some in lesser chambers, but all clad in the robe of Christ's righteousness, woven in the loom of heaven, in which there is no thread of human devising. We watch them go in and out, until the time comes when the gate that looketh toward the east will be shut, and no man will be able to enter that gate. As we move inside the court and see the altar, we look inside and see the holy place, and there is the table of the Lord. There is the altar of incense for the intercession of the Lord. But there is no lamp. It's only as the temple is measured that the glory of God, the light of eternal ages, comes in and fills the whole house. And then he looks inward and he sees the 2-leaved gates going into the most holy place. And he sees that there are walls that separate the profane from the holy and the most holy. He sees it all. He discerns the working of the prince. And as he measures, as he weighs, as he discerns, he sees that back of this mystic temple is the reality of which the sanctuary and the temple in Jerusalem were but types. There is a temple in heaven, the pattern of which is Jesus Christ, the reality of whose sacrifice is the Lord himself. He sees this. He discerns this. He knows that this is true. And he is told, Son of man, see with your eyes, hear with your ears, understand with your heart, and then go tell my people. Show them the pattern. Let them measure, that they may be ashamed of their iniquities. And if they are ashamed of their iniquities, show them that the Prince has prepared the sacrifice, that he has done it all, that he has given his blood on Calvary on behalf of all mankind. Let them see it. He is forgiven. His blood is on the doorpost. They may enter in. They have nothing to fear. Let them know it all. Show the house to the house of Israel. And the prince is not going to take inheritance from them. He is going to give inheritance. He doesn't oppress the people. Out of his own inheritance, he is going to give inheritance to his people. Let them rest in peace. There are many mansions in the Father's house. The earth is to be inhabited by God's people. Every man is to dwell under his vine and under his fig tree. I, the Lord, have spoken it. And out of all the inheritance, a small area for the temple is to be measured out for the prince. In that area, the most holy place of all, the prince will live. And the prince will lead people. He will bring them in every Sabbath into the holy places, into the heavenly courts to worship. He will bring them in every new moon. They will come in to worship. Seasonally, they will have the Feast of Tabernacles, where they will come into the holy places to dwell in God's presence for periods of time. They will focus there on the burnt offering that the prince offered himself. They will concentrate on the prince. They will realize that his life, his character, his death, his mediation, his ministry, his purposes constitute the glory of God for the blessing of mankind. There he will leave a blessing. And as all this is carried through, they will discern that defilement has been removed, that the sanctuary will be cleansed. And as we think of the cleansing of the sanctuary and realize that the only thing that defiled in the sanctuary on earth were those drops of innocent blood that were the mute records of confessed sins, that even the records of man's sins will be removed. They will not be found anywhere. They will be blotted out as a thick cloud. They will be buried in the depths of the sea. They will never be remembered nor come into mind. Every record of man's sin, every trace of rebellion will be removed. And when the land is given in heritage to God's people, the prince will be in the midst of them. And the prince will dwell in the temple in the midst of them. And into the temple will come God's people, his elect, season by season, age by age, year by year, week by week, to worship the prince in the most holy place. This is the purpose, this is the product, this vision is the result of measuring the temple, measuring the altar, measuring them that worship therein. Revelation 11, 1 and 2. How do we measure the sanctuary? How do we, in our daily lives, measure the altar of Calvary? It would be well, Ellen White says, to spend an hour every day contemplating the sacrifice of Christ. As we have been thinking through the stimulus of Ezekiel's word, of Jesus as the center of the sanctuary, as the center of sacrifice, we have been measuring it. We have been weighing one against the other. We have been considering the sacred with the profane. We've been thinking about the divine mercy, the divine love, human depravity, human rebellion, the divine compassion, human hate. We've seen it all. And coming as a climax to Ezekiel's predictions from chapter 1, we have seen what Ezekiel saw as the glory of God finally bring about a new heaven and a new earth, wherein Jesus Christ dwells forever in peace and joy with his people. We have listened to the harsh cries of the people of Israel as they rejected the preaching of Ezekiel. We have heard of their cynicism. We have discerned them coming up to him, listening to his preaching, thinking about it as just a solo by a musician, a performer, and going their own way. We have entered into the secret of their imaginings. We have seen jealousy, envy, depravity, and sex corroding and destroying their thinking, their talking, their planning, their living. We have heard the cynicism of the heathen. Aha! Israel has come to naught. We have seen the arrogance of the king of Tyre. We have seen the strength of the king of Egypt. We have seen the profanity of the Edomites. We have seen the obscenity of the Ammonites and the Moabites. We have seen the materialism of the Tyrians and the Sidonians. We have seen it all. And through it all we've heard the call of God through the prophet, appealing, come, change your ways, accept my program. I am your Lord. I will change you. We've gone back in time and we have seen Satan, by the throne of God, bring about revolt in heaven, war in heaven, expulsion of the angels from heaven, seduction of the earth. We have seen him bring this planet to the verge of ruin. And we have seen one like the Son of Man come as a babe, transform. We have seen the glory of God. And so as we move through these chapters, we see the divine, everlasting gospel in Jesus Christ, made possible through the incarnation, made audible through God's servants and witnesses here on earth, prophet and apostle bearing testimony. We have seen some reject, we have seen some accept. All this we have seen. We have heard with our ears, we have sensed with our hearts. We have been bidden, go beyond the earthly into celestial. We have seen Christ in the heavenly court, one with the Father, coming to men, dying for men, restored to the bosom of the Father, only interceding. We have seen the blood in the midst of the throne. We have watched in vision through the prophets, and we have heard in vision from the prophets the redeemed around the throne, hymning the praises of Jesus Christ. And the words of Ezekiel come back to us, Son of man, show the house to the house of Israel. Let them measure the pattern, Jesus Christ. Let them measure the altar of sacrifice. Let them measure the character of them that worship therein. Let them discern the many mansions in the Father's house. And ashamed of their iniquity, let them fall prostrate before the Prince, who is the priest, who is the Lamb, who is the King. He will give them a new heart, a new mind, a new body, a new unity, and a new life, in a new inheritance, in a new land.
You've been listening to another special American Cassette Ministries presentation. This is a digital recording for optimum sound quality. International copyright 2004, American Cassette Ministries, all rights reserved. For additional cassettes or CDs by this speaker, or for a free catalog of other American Cassette Ministries resources, please contact us as follows. Visit our secure website at www.americancassette.org. Our entire catalog is online, plus thousands of other selections to choose from. We accept Visa, MasterCard, and Discover credit cards. Our email address is info@americancassette.org. To order toll-free in the United States and Canada, dial 800-233-4450. For international orders, dial 717-652-7000. For fax orders, dial 717-652-9050. Or you may simply write to American Cassette Ministries, Post Office Box 922, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania 17108, in the United States of America. Maintaining the integrity of the Three Angels' messages for 29 years, American Cassette Ministries requests your continued prayers and financial support as we strive to provide you with the finest, most powerful spiritual messages available. Our one purpose in ministry? To prepare you and your loved ones to meet Jesus Christ. He's coming soon.